This is Pete Fornatale back with you on Mixed Bag, and I'm pleased to present to you today our third annual Roger McGuinn update at WNEW-FM.
Going to the gate of home in my memory, red light flickering on a tablecloth, big dark beer in front of me. How I wish that I was there, standing at the bar, listening to Mr. Gibson play on his fine guitar. He had a big old 12 string and it went something like this. Gate of home, glad I was Chicago born. Gate of home meant everything to me. I was barely 17, little salty and a little green. Gate of home meant everything to me. Sometimes there'd be a little jig like this. There was Judy and Peter and Josh and Odetta, the Clancys and Mary and Paul made it better. Grossman and Tommy and Dickie and Lou, when no one was looking, McGuinn was there too. But then they came and tore it down. Songbirds scattered and they all left town. Gate of home meant everything to me. Gate of home, glad I was Chicago born. Gate of home meant everything to me.
There are just a handful of songs, Roger McGuinn, that capture the ambiance of those days. That is certainly one of them.
Thank you.
Tell us non-Chicagoans about the Gate of Horn experience.
Well, it defies description, really. It was part of that whole late 50s folk thing, and the atmosphere at the time was really artsy, and there's like a renaissance of different kinds of art forms coming around at that point. And folk music was quite a big popular thing before the really mass appeal. It was starting to get a mass appeal. Mm-hmm. I guess it had started back in the late 40s with the Weavers and like that. But it was kind of like on the level that jazz was, at the time, and I guess is now, where it was getting a small but growing percentage of the listeners. And a lot of the people there were executives and, people who basically were white-collar workers who'd come and play the five-string banjo on Sundays or something like that. And, But then there were the professionals like Odetta and Bob Gibson and...
Oh, you packed a whole bunch of them in there, too, didn't you?
Judy and Peter and Josh and Odetta. That was Josh White and the Clancys, and Mary and Paul made it better. I don't think Peter, Paul, and Mary as such ever played there, but it just sounded like, a good thing to throw into that.
And Tommy and Dickie, we can assume?
Were the Smothers Brothers, but I don't think they played there, but Tom Paxton did, and Peter Yarrow did before he was with Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Now, you were living there at the time, Roger.
Right, I was living on the near north side, which was like the Greenwich Village of Chicago.
And drawn to this like a moth to a flame?
Oh, yeah. Say? Well, see, I was going to prep school on the near north side, and my music teacher was kind of into the folk scene. She'd come from Philadelphia and evidently had a folk scene there. And she brought Bob Gibson over to my high school in my second year. And I went from being a rockabilly fan to a folk fan overnight. Mm-hmm. And I enrolled in the Old Town School of Folk Music, and I started going down to the Gate of Horn and going to the Hootenannies on Sundays. And then as I got a little older, I got a fake ID. I shouldn't brag about it. But the drinking age was 21 in Chicago, and I needed a little help. So I started hanging out there at nights. And what I'd do is I was working at a coffee house down the street, and I'd play until like 2 in the morning, and then I'd pack up my banjo and guitar and walk over to the Gate of Horn and unpack one or the other of them and jam, because there's always something going on over there around the bar. And they were open till like 4 and 5 on Saturdays. So it was quite a late night scene.
Yes, you were obviously in training for your rock and roll days to come later.
Right. That's where I learned about rock and roll time. Right. Yeah.
When you came to New York, Roger, did you seek out immediately a similar scene here, and did you find it right away?
Oh, yeah. Well, I knew where to find it, because I'd run into Sandy Bull and people like that from New York who had come to visit Chicago, and in fact, it was one of my fondest dreams to come to New York and see the real folk scene, because Chicago's was nice, but it was kind of like the second city. And so I immediately gravitated to Greenwich Village and the places down there like the Gaslight and the Bitter End and places like that. And in fact, got a job playing at one coffee house at one point.
Was that your first? Well, no, for New York, I guess it might have been.
I was working with Darren at the time, but this is a little later. But when I first came there, I didn't get a job. I'd just sit in at like the Gaslight. I'd get up on stage and play a couple of songs.
Is this pre-Bob Dylan at this point?
No, it was, Bob Dylan was around. In fact, I remember running into him at, what used to be Gertie's Folk City over on 4th Street. And he would get up on the Hootenanny nights and play some songs that were mostly Woody Guthrie songs.
Did you see his potential instantly? Do you remember your first impressions?
Yeah, I do. I remember seeing him as a competitive contemporary, and all the little girls really liked him at Gertie's, and I thought, this guy's got something. But I really didn't. If you'd asked me then if Bob Dylan would ever emerge and be what he finally did come to be, I wouldn't have said so. I wouldn't have thought so. Not that he didn't have talent, but I just didn't see the writing capability at that point, because he was doing Woody Guthrie songs and other folk-type songs.
That's not the first time I'm hearing that. Judy Collins made the same point, and I guess that was a prevalent attitude at the time. Now, in a way, though, your success is so linked to his, and vice versa, because, although he certainly was successful apart from the Byrds' interpretations of his music, that certainly raised it to a whole new level. How did that cross-pollination come about, so to speak?
Well, Victor was Dylan's road manager at the time that he wrote Mr. Tambourine Man. He wrote it at Al Aronowitz's house in New York, and Jack Elliott was on the dub. He just had an acetate of it. And Victor sent it to Jim Dixon, who was our first manager. And Dixon was a friend of Dylan's and Victor's. And Dixon heard the song and somehow was able to see it as a top 40 hit, which I couldn't at all. When I heard it, I thought, well, it's a nice, song. It's a good folk song, but it's not I Want to Hold Your Hand or, She Loves You or whatever. And somehow we all auditioned for who was going to sing the lead on it, and I won the audition among the 5 of us in the group. We weeded out one verse that we wanted to do that sort of captured the English, feeling, I think, and we did it. And I was really surprised, actually. We cut it in around January, and it was in the can for maybe 6 months, and during that point I almost started another group with Dino Valenti. We were going to have spacesuits and all that stuff, and wireless microphones. and that was attractive to me, being into the gadgets and all that stuff. But then Mr. Tambourine Man was released, and it shot up to #1, and so there went the Byrds. But I was really ready to give up because I didn't have that much faith in it.
But with as unique a sound as has ever been heard in rock and roll, those opening notes still do it for me every time.